Blair loved to draw. She always had. From the moment she could hold a crayon, she was creating worlds of her own on paper. Even as a little girl, she would spend hours scribbling away in her coloring books. Her imagination knew no bounds, and every page was a new adventure. Her parents encouraged her passion, even buying her a set of paints for her 10th birthday. Blair was overjoyed. She felt like she had been given the keys to a magical kingdom. She felt like she could conquer the world with a paintbrush in hand. Each stroke of the brush was a step towards her dreams. Blair's favorite place in the world was her bedroom. It was her personal studio, her creative haven. It wasn't much, just a small room with faded floral wallpaper, but to Blair, it was a canvas waiting to be filled with her dreams. But to Blair, it was a sanctuary, a place where she could be herself, surrounded by her creations. The walls were covered in her artwork. Each piece told a story, a glimpse into her vibrant imagination. Bright, colourful paintings jostled for space with charcoal sketches and delicate watercolours. It was a gallery of her growth as an artist. Blair's family didn't have much money. They lived in a modest home, but it was filled with love and support. Her dad was a sculptor, but his work wasn't very commercial. He poured his heart into each piece, even if they didn't sell. He spent most of his days in his dusty studio, creating beautiful but unsaleable pieces. His passion was his art, and he understood Blair's drive. Her mum worked as a waitress, her dreams of going to university long gone. She worked long hours to support the family. Despite their financial struggles, Blair's parents were incredibly supportive of her artistic ambitions. They saw her potential and wanted to help her succeed. They knew she had a gift, and they were determined to nurture it, even if it meant sacrificing their own needs. Their belief in her was unwavering. Blair felt a fierce determination to succeed, not just for herself, but for them. She wanted to make them proud and show them that their sacrifices were worth it. Blair met Ashley in middle school. Ashley was everything Blair wasn't: confident, outgoing, and wealthy. Ashley's family had a huge house with a swimming pool and a tennis court. Her dad was a successful lawyer and her mum was a doctor. Ashley was also drawn to Blair's artistic talent. She would often watch Blair sketch in her notebook, her eyes filled with admiration. Ashley, despite her wealth, couldn't draw a straight line. She started buying Blair expensive art supplies and even arranged for her to have private lessons with a renowned local artist. Ashley had a twin brother named Dexter. Dexter was the stereotypical jock-tall, muscular and popular. He was also a bit of a prankster, and he often targeted Blair, hiding her art supplies or making fun of her paint-splattered clothes. Blair found him infuriating, yet secretly she couldn't help but find him attractive. The fighting between Blair's parents escalated. They argued about money, about their dreams, about their disappointments. Blair would sit in her room, headphones blasting, trying to drown out the sound of their raised voices. One evening, Blair came home to find her dad's side of the wardrobe empty. He had left. Blair's mum crumbled. She quit her job, stopped leaving the house, and spent her days crying on the sofa. Blair found herself having to be the strong one, comforting her mum while her own world felt like it was falling apart. With their only source of income gone, Blair and her mum faced eviction. Blair knew she had to do something. She started looking for a job, any job that would allow her to pay the rent and keep a roof over their heads. She found a part-time job at a local cafe, working long hours after school and on weekends. One evening, Blair was walking home from the cafe after a particularly grueling shift. The sky was a deep, moody grey, and the streetlights cast long, eerie shadows on the wet pavement. It was pouring with rain, and she had forgotten her umbrella. Each raindrop felt like a tiny needle against her skin, and the cold seeped through her clothes, chilling her to the bone. She was soaked to the skin, and her feet ached. She felt utterly defeated. Her mind wandered to the warmth of her small apartment, the comfort of dry clothes and a hot cup of tea. Suddenly a car pulled up beside her. It was Dexter. The headlights illuminated the raindrops, making them look like tiny diamonds falling from the sky. He rolled down the window and looked at her, his expression surprisingly soft. "Get in," he said, his voice cutting through the sound of the rain. Blair hesitated, but Dexter just smiled, a genuine smile that reached his eyes and said, "Come on, Blair, I won't bite." His tone was warm and inviting, a stark contrast to the cold, wet night. Blair got in the car. The warmth of the car's interior was a welcome relief, and she felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. As they drove, Dexter told her about his own dreams of becoming a musician. His voice was filled with passion and excitement as he spoke about his love for music. He played the guitar and was in a band with some friends. Blair was surprised. She had never imagined this side of him. She had always assumed Dexter was just a jock, but there was a depth to him that she had never noticed before. His dreams and aspirations painted a new picture of him in her mind. For the first time, Blair saw Dexter not as Ashley's annoying brother, but as a person in his own right. She realized there was so much more to him than she had ever given him credit for. Section 5. A Splash of Betrayal. Blair started developing feelings for Dexter. They spent more and more time together, talking about music, art, and their dreams for the future. Blair felt a connection with him that she had never felt with anyone else, not even Ashley. Then one day Dexter rejected her. He told her he didn't feel the same way about her. Blair was devastated. She felt like a fool for letting her guard down, for thinking that someone like Dexter could ever be interested in someone like her. To make matters worse, Blair discovered that Dexter's rejection had been a dare. Ashley had dared him to pretend to like Blair to see if he could make her fall for him. Blair was furious. She couldn't believe that Ashley, her best friend, could betray her like this. Section 6. Ripples of Truth. Dexter regretted what he had done. The weight of his actions pressed heavily on his conscience, making it hard for him to focus on anything else. He replayed the events in his mind, wishing he could turn back time. He realized that he had hurt Blair, and he hated himself for it. The pain in her eyes haunted him, a constant reminder of his mistake. He knew he had to make things right, but he didn't know how. He tried to apologize, but Blair wouldn't speak to him. Every attempt he made to reach out was met with silence or a cold shoulder. It was as if a wall had been built between them, impenetrable and unyielding. One day, Blair was at Ashley's house trying to avoid Dexter. She needed space to think, to process everything that had happened. Ashley's house was her refuge, a place where she could escape the turmoil. She was by the pool when she slipped on the wet tiles. The world seemed to slow down as she lost her balance, her arms flailing in a desperate attempt to catch herself. She fell, hitting her head on the edge of the pool. She blacked out. The impact was sudden and jarring, and everything went dark. When Blair came round, she was lying on a sun lounger. Her head throbbed and she felt disoriented. She blinked, trying to make sense of her surroundings. Dexter was kneeling beside her, his face etched with worry. His eyes were filled with concern, and he looked as if he hadn't breathed since she fell. He had seen her fall and had jumped in the pool to save her. Without a second thought, he had dived in, his only focus on getting to her in time. Blair confronted Ashley, accusing her of the dare. Her voice trembled with anger and hurt, the betrayal cutting deep. Ashley broke down, confessing that she had been jealous of Blair's talent and the connection she had with Dexter. Tears streamed down her face as she admitted her insecurities and the lengths she had gone to out of envy. Dexter, overhearing their conversation, admitted the truth. He couldn't stay silent any longer, the guilt eating away at him. He told Blair that he had started to develop real feelings for her, but he had been too scared to admit it, even to himself. His voice was earnest, filled with a vulnerability that he had never shown before. Section 7. Painting her dreams. Blair dreamt of going to NYU. It was the best art school in the country, and she was determined to get in. She knew it would be a challenge. The application process was rigorous, and she would need a strong portfolio of work. Dexter, desperate to make amends, asked Blair to paint his portrait. He wanted to show her how much she meant to him, how much he regretted hurting her. Blair, initially reluctant, eventually agreed. As she painted Dexter, she found herself seeing him in a new light. She saw his vulnerability, his kindness, and his genuine remorse. Blair poured her heart and soul into the portrait. It was more than just a painting. It was a representation of their complex relationship, of their shared pain and their growing understanding. The portrait became the centerpiece of her NYU application. Section 8. Shadows of Doubt. Blair's mum's health deteriorated. She was diagnosed with a rare disease and told she needed a transplant. Blair was terrified. She couldn't imagine life without her mum. Blair's NYU application was rejected. She was devastated. She had put her heart and soul into her application, into her portfolio. She couldn't understand why she had been rejected. Then Blair discovered the truth. Ashley had sabotaged her application. She had called the admissions office, pretending to be a concerned friend, and had told them that Blair's mum was making up her illness, that she was just trying to get sympathy. Blair confronted Ashley. Ashley broke down, confessing that she had been afraid of losing Blair, afraid that she would go to NYU and forget all about her. Blair was furious, hurt and heartbroken. Section 9, A New Dawn. Dexter was there for Blair, a constant source of support and strength. He helped her to navigate her mother's illness, to deal with her disappointment over NYU, and to process her anger and hurt towards Ashley. Blair's mum received a transplant. The operation was a success and she made a full recovery. Blair was overjoyed. She had her mum back, and despite everything, she felt a sense of hope for the future. Blair didn't give up on her dream of being an artist. She continued to paint, to draw, to create. She realized that her art wasn't just about getting into NYU, it was about expressing herself, about making sense of the world around her. Blair and Dexter's relationship deepened. They had been through so much together, and their shared experiences had forged a bond that was unbreakable. Their future was uncertain, but they faced it together, hand in hand.